As the scene unfolds, it's mentioned that Meryl and Royal Palace Gate is highly popular modern shoujo manga. The plot is about a girl named Meryl who lived downtown and was found to be the missing princess, and it's a story of continuous growth and overcoming hardships upon returning to the royal palace. Furthermore, it also articulated she bullied by her half-sisters and other aristocrats. After experiencing things like the death of her dearest brother, Meryl finally becomes the queen. On the other hand, someone quoted to a small fat girl back home, Meryl's rival Angela's fat pig follower. The girl called Fat Pig she contemplated that is her after being reincarnated, as she'd rather be anyone but this white pig. Eventually, she articulated that she recalled memories of her past life after grandfather told her engagement was annulled. As Richard Asudaru sent a notification letter about the engagement's annulment. Looking at her bulges, she continued an obese 12-year-old child weighing 80 kilograms. Then she contemplated can't see legs with this protruding tummy. However, she continued a face full of acne, bad beau, because of her body, and not to mention a shockingly terrible personality that can't be saved from what she remembered. She also dubbed the White Pig Opposer by reader, not Villainess but rather White Pig Opposer, and with this appearance it's no wonder that the engagement got annulled. She continued, more importantly she remembered that the end of the manga, Britney bore all the guilt and was executed, as that wasn't funny at all. Furthermore, it mentioned in the game Meryl and the Gate of the Palace, her position as Britney is a follower of Meryl's one san, Princess Angela, who loves bullying others, and after being exposed by the neighboring country's prime minister, Angela abandoned Britney and pinned everything on her. Afterward, Britney thought that is the one thing that must be avoided, as speaking of which, she's certain that all the followers by Angela's side were much uglier in comparison. Then she made up her mind that she just has to slim down, and once she loses some weight, she won't notice her as long as she doesn't become one of her follower, then it'll be fine. And Britney height is a little over 140.5 centimeters. Looking at her weight, Britney articulated if she could lose half of her weight, 40 kilograms, then she got the feeling that the road to losing weight is full of hardships, but maybe she can avoid execution this way as there's no other way. Then she resolved that the goal is 40 kilogram, and by the way, since she've already been reincarnated, she might as well spend her second life becoming a normal duke's daughter. All of a sudden, Britney requested to her chef that it's as she said from now on. Reduce the size of her meal portion and change the menu to focus on vegetables and other healthy foods while excluding sweets. After hearing her demands, everyone gets shocked, and she thought this reaction is to be expected. After that, Britney mentioned she must endure this because the engagement was annulled. Then one servant quoted Miss. Her tone of voice has changed. Then Britney shouted that's because she wants to completely get rid of the old her, and exclaimed in acceptance, starting from today she's turning her whole life around. Next morning, while running, Britney thought her body is so heavy and even the slightest movement is a burden to this body. Meanwhile, she tripped on her foot while running and looking at two servants. She thought she can see them laughing at her in plain sight. Britney continued, due to her terrible person as an earl's daughter, her relationship with the maids isn't very good, so this must be changed as well. Then she remembered, truly a child beyond help, a warm grandfather in place of her parents because she'd been spoiled from a young age. That led to her not understanding human feelings and turning to bullying the maids for fun. Unexpectedly, someone questioned Britney, is she alright? And she quoted Ryu's-sama. He is Britney's cousin, the future head of the Hakusu family, Ryu's Hakusu. Ryu's questioned, what is she doing in a place like this? And she responded, don't mind her, as she's just trying to slim down. Then he shockingly mentioned, even without doing any of that, Britney is already cute enough. And she asked, is he saying that in earnest? Then thought she can't tell what he's thinking, as that's the really bothersome thing about her cousin. Also, he doesn't appear in game, so she got no impression of him. Then she continued, if he'd appeared before, then she would have definitely remembered such a handsome guy, even if he was a hated character. After thinking, she requested to excuse her, but she mentioned, no matter who says what, she've already decided that she must lose weight. While smiling, he responded, then let him run with her. Hearing his words, she asked, what about his work? And he responded, today's work and studies have been finished. The same goes for sword practice. Eventually, she thought, a pig and a handsome man. They're clearly cousins, but this huge difference in treatment, and the same goes for the maid's attitudes. Observing her face, Ruse asked, Britney, is she alright? As her face is all red. And hesitantly, she responded, don't worry about her, as she's got no more strength left. So Britney requested him to don't talk to her. Then staring at her face, he questioned again, is she really alright? But then all of a sudden, she fell while thinking she've already reached her limit. And how humiliating, as they've only run a circle and a half around the courtyard, she could die of embarrassment. Later at home, Britney asserted a horrible sweaty smell, terrible beau. Also, she was supposed to attend some lessons later, and even though she smells so bad, Ryuz was able to endure it and carry her here. In the history class, teacher asked, could it be that after she eats something unpalatable? And an embroidery teacher mentioned she finally started to show good results. Now everyone was shocked by her food. She sighed while thinking her lesson has ended successfully as well. Then a bald man asked Britney, what's the matter? Could it be that she has a tummy ache? And she quoted Oji-san. It's just that starting form today she wants to lose some weight, that's all. And being too fat is no good for her health. But that man mentioned, if she eats this little, her stomach will still be hungry, and questioned again, why doesn't she have some dessert later? After hearing him, she thought it's not because she herself likes eating vegetables, but rather when it comes to losing weight, veggies are a must. And she quoted Aji-san, just he worrying about her is enough. Afterwards, a long-awaited bath, she thought when it comes to Noble's bath, she's still a bit conflicted. While laying on the bed, Britney sighed while asserting even though the sweat has been washed off, she still smells bad. And if even the maids cleaning can't do the job, then there's no way she can complain. All of a sudden, her stomach started grumbling, and she exclaimed her tummy's so hungry. Then she contemplated if she eats something now, her previous efforts will all have been naught, and she can't let Princess Angela notice her, so she must endure this. Late at night, while sniffing, Britney gets confused and questioned herself, what is this place? Then gets to know it's the kitchen. Eventually, Britney questioned herself, was she looking for food unconsciously? She didn't eat anything, or is she safe? Further, it mentioned that sleeping walking is truly a fearful thing, and this fat pig's fervor for eating is truly a fearful thing. In the next scene, staring at the view, Britney got amazed and thought, this is the Hakusu estate, it really is the countryside. Further, she articulated that Ryuz inviting her to go for a short stroll somewhere far away was not bad at all. But looking at the horse, she questioned herself, is it really okay? And how heavy are Ryuz and she together? Observing her tensed face, he mentioned Britney doesn't have to worry. This horse of his is a strong variety. And she responded, if that's really true, then that's great. So, this way, she won't cause any fractures. After a little silence, Ryuz voiced, Britney, the atmosphere she's giving off has changed. And looking at her shocked face, he continued that she's taken to running recently. Also, she accepting his invitation to go out is a rare occurrence. Then she mentioned, how does that count as it is him who invited her after all, Oni-sama? And with the annulment of her engagement, if she keeps going on like this. But instantly she remembered being reincarnated into a shoujo manga is something she can't tell Ryuz about. Unexpectedly, he picked her up, and she contemplated, a scrawny body like this has that much strength. Then she thanked him, and he responded, it's because of sword practice. Meantime, Britney questioned herself, does Ryuz really accept her so warmly? After that, she asserted, there's a pond over there. Then he responded, the water trickled down after a volcano erupted. While sniffing the scent, she quoted, a hot spring. And Ryuz asked, she knows of hot springs. Then she pondered, certainly a normal earl's daughter wouldn't know about this. And mentioned in a book, hearing her, he agreed and stated, this is a hot spring, as there are many ponds like this in the Hakusu earl's territory. Instantly she questioned, could this hot spring be drained to the streets? And immediately regret, while looking at his face, she thought, that's totally a what is this fat pig talking about expression. Then Britney quoted, she was wondering if it'd be possible to use this to make something like a bath. Again, she contemplated. There's nothing that can be done about it as this domain doesn't have a decent waterway either. And Ryuz mentioned just now she's really brought up a rather peculiar idea. Then nervously she asserted, it's not a problem for nobles, but commoners have no way to take a bath and for things similar to a public bathhouse. After that, she thought she just wants it for herself. Cutting off her thought, he mentioned if that's the case, they need a lot of money. And she admits, then Ryuz continued that she mentioned it. There is a hot spring nearby their residence. But seeing that she's not paying attention to his words, he questioned, Britney, is she listening? Immediately, she stated, she wants it as it's within our residence. Eventually, he quoted, if that's the case, go and try to ask grandfather. Then she thanked him, but he mentioned that right now there's no way to bring the hot spring over. Also, the fate of this domain's waterway has been set, and even though they don't have funds, he continued, he will study at the royal capital so that this domain can become even better. While adoring him, she exclaimed, that's just like him, Oni-sama. And hearing her words, he voiced, Britney, it truly seems as if she's become a whole new person as she before was more. And she asked, is it something bad? Then he responded, he's just really glad to see her maturing like this. And if it's the current her, then she should have no problem getting married. Meanwhile, she repeated, getting married. Then he articulated, that's still a few years down the line. However, Britney started thinking that Ryu's is probably so warm and tolerant of his helpless niece because there's a time limit. And if that's the case, then there's no way that he'd be the type of cousin who'd be fond of her. Further, he quoted recently she's been destined to leave home as a friend of his met at the royal capital has been searching for a companion to chat with his sister. Hearing him, she questioned, whose sister could it? And he responded, it's this country's princess, Angela-sama. However, it mentioned that the chief culprit who pinned Britney for all her crimes and the bad ending. In the next points, it's articulated that's it, this is the moment when Britney becomes involved in Angela's evil scheme. And this flag is too early. Furthermore, Britney voiced Oni-sama, she doesn't want to go to the royal capital. And if he wants her to leave, she continued, then let her leave in another way. But he's about to note something and immediately she requested Oni-sama. After that, she thought she's too much of an idiot that it'll be discourteous to have her by the princess's side, so she silently requested to reject this for her. She continued pondering that this is critical, and she must carefully avoid this flag. Then he asked Britney that she really doesn't want to go that badly, and she admitted that, while he noted very surprising. All of a sudden, she burst out that the royal capital has not only the latest desserts but also the most popular dresses, and clearly, being able to serve the princess is a thing of great pride, so she'd rather stay in the countryside. Britney continued that she will get prepared earlier and independently. After hearing her, Ryuz gets to know the reason and quoted his thoughts are starting to change too. Looking at the way she is now, he proceeds because he can see that she's making progress in the right direction. However, for the sake of this domain's future, he must quickly become the lord, so that's why he has a proposal. Further, Ryuz mentioned if she stays with their family, grandfather won't gladly hand over the governor house's power to him because both of my parents are still well, so grandfather will always take over her position to speak in her place. Therefore, he noted there's still 3 years left as she must get engaged before she turns 15. But then Britney voiced she's a white pig and he quoted while smiling that way she won't have to go to the royal capital. Meanwhile, she thinks in this world, a person who would willingly marry a fat poor earl's daughter doesn't exist. Then she asserted if she can't get engaged and he responded she'll follow his original plan. After that, she thought even if he just wants her to find an engagement, a white pig's peers, then questioned herself is he just trying to make things difficult for her. Looking at her blank face he voiced Britney. He's not saying that she has to be married by then. Just a potential engagement partner will suffice. Just hearing his words she gets speechless and thought Ryuz being considerate of her in his own way. Then Britney whispered otherwise she'll involve grandfather. Now the atmosphere gets threatening. Then Ryuz holds Britney's shoulder and voiced while mischievously smiling he'll be very troubled. But if she's going that way then he'll have his way too. Looking at his expression she responded Oni-sama. His smile is horrifying. Eventually, she contemplated as expected. Ryu's warmth towards relatives isn't completely pure-hearted as his warmth is based on calculation. Suddenly he mentioned the weather's getting bad so let's head back. Then he gives his hand to her and she instantly refused as she covered in sweat, but he made her sit on the horse. After that, Ryuz whispered let's head back and she shyly thought her whole body's covered in sweat and right now she probably smells terrible. He doesn't complain. Then she expressed what a real gentleman. Further, she articulated even if there isn't an engagement, as long as she doesn't get involved with Angela or she slim down and her acne disappear, that's good enough. Looking at Ryuz she contemplated he wants to become the head and she'll only get in his way, but if he doesn't hate her then that's good. In the next scene, they both reached home. Then a maid shouted Britney-sama and she questioned what's wrong. Then she responded her grandfather's telling her to come as Richard-sama from the Asudaru family has come to visit. Hearing her, Britney questioned herself Richard from the Asudaru family and contemplated the ex-finance who cancelled her engagement. In the next chapter, Britney mentioned that in her original life, she was a normal uni student, but now she knows that she's already been reincarnated into a shoujo manga. As the white pig opposer from the shoujo manga Meryl, and the royal palace gate, who plays a supporting role in the plot and gets executed. So, in order to avoid the execution route, aside from slimming down, she must stay away from Princess Angela, and as a result, she's been given deadline of 3 years to find a potential engagement by her Oni-sama Ryuz. She continued if she can find a finance within 3 years then she won't have to go to the royal palace, but her body weighs is 80 kilograms. Cutting off her thought a maid shouted Britney-sama. Richard-sama from the Asudaru family has come to visit her. Eventually while opening the door Britney apologized to keep him waiting. Looking at him, she thought he is the person she was originally engaged to, but suddenly a man sincerely apologized to her, then mentioned that this insolent brat has gone and done such a disrespectful thing. While canceling the engagement was something this insolent brat did himself without authorization, that's why they humbly ask that she ignore this mistake. Looking at her confused face, that man continued, having said that it's because of this Britney was shaken to the point that she barely eats, and she contemplated grandfather that's purely due to dieting in order to lose weight. Cutting off her thought, a man again apologized to her while bowing his head, then Britney requested him to raise his head. Meanwhile, she thought while giggling inwardly she doesn't mind at all. But looking at her smiling, they both started shivering, then biting her lip, Britney pondering she wanted to laugh like an Aojo-sama, but it seems they only saw a fat pig laughing. Instantly she caught Richard sitting quietly and thought that boy looks annoyed to be engaged to her, then she get it. And even if it was her, if she met a smelly fat person with a terrible personality, she'd still be unhappy at best. Just then she quoted, "Anyway, he doesn't need to mind her anymore," and requested him to discuss with grandfather as she will comply with his decision. After she gets away, she wondered how this will all turn out, and if he agrees to be her fiancé then she'll have completed Ryu's condition, and if he refuses then it's best not to think about that. Later, while panting heavily, she asserted at first she wanted to go see the hot spring Ryu was talking about is so far. While gasping, she mentioned a normal person wouldn't get this tired and questioned herself, is it because she's a white pig? But she continued contemplating maybe she should take up horse riding. However, looking at the scene, Britney was surprised and quoted, "This is the hot spring as there is indeed water flowing, but there's no pond," and she questioned herself, is there a deserted pond they can redirect the flow of water to around here? She continued, if that's the case a ditch will be needed and she can only ask Ryu's Oni-sama, but he's unexpectedly uncharitable, so whining to him won't work. After that she fall on her knee exhaustedly. In the next scene, Britney asked her fiancé, "Were you looking for me for something?" While looking at him, she started pondering that slightly orange golden hair, a very dignified look. And he's just a kid now, but he'll be really handsome in the future. Then he responded, not on purpose as his father, and the Earl decided to reinstate the engagement. Further, he mentioned that he won't approve of this, and Britney quoted, "Regardless of what he says to me." Looking at him, she continued that as the daughter of an Earl, she has no power, and it would be better for him to directly say such words to her grandfather. Then he mumbled, "Why does he have to be with a girl like this, as he'll never approve of this marriage?" After that, Richard voiced Britney to go tell the Earl that she wants to annul this engagement. Hearing his words, she gets speechless and thought how childish. Also, she'd get a similar vibe if she had a little brother, but while smiling evilly, she contemplated she can use this to her advantage, but Britney doesn't know she accidentally slipped that word from her mouth. Further, hearing her, he gasped and thought, have he been influenced by Britney's personality, as he would have never thought of using this to his advantage. Then she spoke, even though she can't guarantee that this will work, but she will talk with the grandfather, and he gets shocked. However, Britney mentioned she has a condition. Meanwhile, she thought their estate is very prosperous, so they also have a lot of tax money, and a waterway would be perfect. Then she demanded she'd like for him to help them build a waterway there as compensation for annulling the engagement. Britney requested him to build a waterway in the Hakusu estate, and Richard exclaimed, "What kind of joke is this?" Then asked for the entire estate. Does she know how much manpower and money this will take? Hearing his words, Britney contemplated, even though he's still just a kid, he's very smart. After that, she asked could they get some help from his side, as she wants to use this courtyard to bring water to that pond. She continued that a waterway that extends all the way to that pond, then asked him it's quite simple, right? And Richard responded if it's just to this extent then their civil engineering technology is more developed than other estate, and Britney thanked him. Further, she smiled creepily while mentioning that she still has more requests and she will ideally communicate to grandfather about the idea of the engagement being annulled. Britney continued though grandfather gets the final say, then that boy contemplated why she has to reveal such a creepy smile. But at least she is someone he can reason with. Meanwhile, it mentioned the girl in the portrait he saw. In the next scene, looking at the portrait, Richard articulated that had a head of black curls with a pair of watery blue eyes under them. She was a very slim, beautiful girl. Then he mentioned Richard Asutoru, fell in love at first sight, even if it was just a picture. It captured her beauty and a sense of intelligence in full, so he really wanted to meet her. Moreover, he hid from father and secretly went out to see her. But there he saw Britney yelling at the maid while quoting that the maid isn't even the least bit intelligent, and told her to bring her more sweets. Otherwise, she'll complain to her grandfather. Then Richard mentioned right in front of his eyes was a female white pig who looked nothing like her portrait. And there Britney quoted she's talking about her ugly tramp. Hearing her words, he thought she herself is the ugly tramp. Further, Richard articulated his fiancée is not taking into account the outside is ugly even on the inside while he had fallen deep into despair. Then he denied that he doesn't want to get married to that monster. After that, Richard suffered from insomnia because of those continuous nightmares, and his body weight went down 5 kilograms in just 1 week. So if he keeps going on like this, sooner or later, one day he'll be wasted away. He continued that's why he even carried out the whole engagement annulment on his own. And all that is what led up to that when his father is apologizing to Britney, and Richard contemplating how humiliating. That fatty will definitely start insulting him there just like that. However, his father stated him to hurry up and bow his head down. But Britney responded to forget about her and continue to discuss further with her grandfather. Hearing her, he gets surprised and thought she left by herself. This fatty is quite calm and outwardly appear to be very courageous. But Richard continued that indeed just a fatty that can understand human speech, and he stated that he doesn't like being around very unhygienic and lazy girls. Even she responded that she wouldn't want to become a fatty like Britney, and he mentioned if that's the case, then why doesn't she work hard to lose weight and try to get rid of her beau? Listening to her words, he contemplated all bark and no bite. He hates those kinds of people the most. He continued as expected, him and Britney are just incompatible. Later in the pond, while relaxing, Britney expressed she's in paradise and hot springs are the best. Then she pondered it's all because Richard brought many workers with him that the hot spring was quickly and successfully completed. Also, she can't thank Richard enough. Further, she articulated that to make the people of this world aware of the benefits of a hot springs, and she has to open that place up to the servants. She continued that this world doesn't have soap and with just this hot spring alone, there's no way to get rid of her beau. As her previous life, Shiva made soap before out of interest with water, grease, caustic soda, aka sodium hydroxide. However, she contemplated regarding sodium hydroxide how will she refine it, and Shiva heard that in the coast of the Mediterranean Sea, they would use olive oil and seaweed lye to make soap. And for seaweeds, the Hakusu territory could start. In the next scene, Britney was in the kitchen. One of the servants asked, "What is the young madam trying to do?" But the maid indicated him to remain silent. Further, she articulated she'll use olive oil from the kitchen as grease. Then she can get seaweeds from their territory. And for the fragrance, she might well use Britney's sesame oil since she has some in the first place. Even though Shiva experienced several failures, she has finally succeeded. After 4 weeks later, Britney mentioned hot springs and soap are awesome. Then she asserted, after successfully creating soap, she wants to make lotion as that'll take care of her pimples. She can also make shampoo and conditioner. Eventually, Ryu's voiced Britney and questioned her. There seems to be a very pleasing scent coming from her. Then she quoted, "Oniai-sama, that is a thing called soap." While giving him, she requested him if he can try it out, and he took that soap and thanked her. However, Britney exclaimed back then she never expected that the soap she'd created would change her destiny. Meanwhile, sitting alone, Britney contemplated even though Shiva already opened the hot spring to the servants. She still wants to hear their thoughts on the soap because Britney used to bully the servants. Even now her relationship with them remains distant. Furthermore, she continued, in the first place, this all because the servants badmouthed Britney when she was younger. Then only after she heard her servants badmouthing her did she started to bully them. But, in their defense, she did go a bit too far. Suddenly someone shouted, "Watch out." But it's too late, ball directly hit her face. Then a boy apologized to her while asking is she okay. Instantly another boy mentioned a really fat fatty and Britney's about to shout who dares to call her fatty. Then she assured her there's no need to overreact. Britney articulated it's the maid's children. She continued if there's no way to repair her relationship with the servants, then she might as well be on good terms with their children. And she voiced that she just wanted to say to them. Later, Britney remembered Richard's words that he doesn't like being around unhygienic and very lazy girls. The words her ex-fiancé said weren't wrong. They're a boy and girl sitting looking at them. She thanked them for willingly gathering. Then she introduced that she's Britney, the person who will be teaching them. So why don't they start learning how to write first? Then Britney contemplated it's time for her to work hard. And even if she's starting from the very bottom, she's only 12 right now, so there's plenty of time to do that. She continued even though she doesn't know why she reincarnated into here, but since Shiva got another shot at life in a manga she'll try her hardest to get the best route. Looking at the mirror, Britney gets shocked that her acne is lessening. Now, it's been 3 months since she remembered everything, and during that time, while she was teaching the children, she improved her studies on beauty care. After that, she mentioned after using lotion, her beau disappeared, that Britney is now a fatty in full bloom. Looking herself in the mirror, she quoted, "This is all thanks to increased usage of shampoo and conditioner, as well as lotion in the hot spring." Britney also mentioned that Shiva opened spring to both Ryu's and the servants. By the way, the engagement annulment with Richard has already been recognized. While laughing, she exclaimed, she still can't cut off ties with him just yet. However, she's going to mention that everything's been going smoothly, but she instantly asked herself why haven't she lost weight, as after losing 5 kilograms, no more changes has come. Britney grumbly exclaimed Shiva already reduced her food portion, and Shiva stuck to exercising. Then she made up her mind that she should work out more to strengthen her muscles. Meanwhile, later at the restaurant, Ruse greeted Britney and mentioned he used the soap she gave him. "It's really good." Hearing him, she contemplated. Even though Oni-sama has always smelled good to begin with, because there's no way to tell what he's thinking. And after being praised one would naturally feel terrified. Then he responded, because he couldn't pass up the opportunity, so he also gave some soap to a friend from the royal palace. After hearing Ryu's, she spat out the water from her mouth. While thinking, a friend from the royal palace, could it be the prince he mentioned before? Then she asked, why did he give such a highly respected person her handmade soap? And he responded, it's a good product, and he wanted to introduce it to them. Ryu's continued, if all goes well, it could become a source of income for the territory, so he feels that it could also be used in medical facilities. While hearing, she thought, without having experienced what she has, there should be no way to come to such a conclusion. Cutting off her thought, Ryu's mentioned, this could be a truly amazing invention. Further, he questioned, what sort of science did she use to create that? Then Britney articulated, that's how the Hakusu estate started mass-producing soap. And she continued that her work regarding soap production was slowly steered towards research because she needs to create a new formula. The research room was prepared for her. However, Ryu's has been looking forward to this. There's no way that she can just do as she please. And if she just do things carelessly and anger him, then she'll definitely get booted to the royal palace. Such reality is too scary. Later, Ryu's questioned Britney, how has the production of new soaps been going? And she responded, it's nearly finished as she used lavender from their estate, and rosemary as well, so the cost of raw materials has been drastically reduced. Unexpectedly, he touched Britney's hair and asserted, lately it seems that her hair has gotten quite supple. Looking at her shocked expression, he smiles and requested her to excuse him as he suddenly went as far as to touch a lady's hair. Then she pondered, when he's a handsome guy he can really get away with anything, and no matter what he does he always gives such a forgiving smile, so it really makes her heart skip a beat. She continued, if it was the old Britney, her eyes would have surely rolled to the back of her head and she would have passed out on the spot. Moreover, Britney responded hesitantly, for her hair she've been using conditioner and lemon juice, and it's used while washing hair in a hot spring. While thinking, Ryu's noted, not to mention ingredients for soap such as olive oil and rose essential oil. The ingredients she mentioned are practically the adjacent territory's specialty, and right now it's truly a shame that her engagement with Richard was annulled. Then Britney apologized to him. However, she quoted, if they use grapeseed oil in lieu of olive oil there should be no problem. And Ryu's responded, if that's the case then let's try their utmost to use ingredients that are specialties of their territory, so being able to mass produce will be good enough. After that, she articulated, recently Ryu's has been running about in order to change the Hakusu territory's status quo of low income. And even though he previously stated that he wanted to prepare a waterway because right now they doesn't have enough funds, so the plan could only be delayed. In the next scene, Britney mentioned that wanting to increase the profits of the territory is something she has in common with Ryu's. But right now she's got to research, study, and slim down, so she's quite busy. Suddenly, someone voiced, Miss, then she quoted, Ryan, Maria. Further, Maria mentioned the book she lent her was really interesting. Then Britney responded, that's good to hear, while giving them the book she quoted, here's the next book. Then they both thanked her. In between, Britney articulated that when she has time to spare, she teaches the maid's children. Looking at them, she thought they're both such good kids. Cutting off her thought, Maria questioned, Miss, is she really busy? Is there anything she could help her with? After hearing her, Britney asserted, she has to go make soap, so if she could lend a hand that'd be a huge help. Then Maria questioned, can she do it? Immediately, Britney indicated her to be silent as she noted for the formula, it's a trade secret. Then she asked, can she keep a secret? And Maria agreed to her. Later, as they both going to enter the room, Britney gets shocked and asked, tea party. Then, the bald man stated, rather than befriending commoners, it would be better to make friends among nobility. And she responded in shock, Oji-sama, it's not like that, she doesn't want to make friends. And she mentioned it's because she's gotten on good terms with the maid's children that he wants her to befriend other nobles' daughters. That's way too difficult, and that man asserted that the invitation has already been sent out. After that, she got speechless and thought lots of Britney's favorite sweets has also been prepared already. Then, she quoted, she won't eat, and shouted, what has he done? Later at the hot spring, Britney thought, things sure have taken a turn for the worse, and remembered the despicable glance she received from other nobles' daughters when she was younger are still present in her mind, so she doesn't want to show that ugly body to them. Further, she articulated she's brimming with anxiety, and questioned herself, what should she do as she can't completely slim down and with limits on her meal size and continuous exercise, why is it that she can't lose weight? But suddenly, Ryuz came out of nowhere, while holding a cloth in his hand. Looking at him, Britney gets embarrassed and shocked, then immediately he apologized to her that he didn't think that she'd be inside. Meanwhile, hiding her face with her hands, she thought, how could something like this happen? However, Britney thought in a typical hot spring spoof episode some sort of heart-pounding event like this one would probably be present, but no way it can compare to the one just now. Meanwhile, turning around he apologized and mentioned he should have made sure before coming in. Then bowing at him, Britney noted she's the one who should be apologizing as she let him see something horrifying. Then she pondered, after all, Ryu's the one who's actually been scared and she let him see a body like a pig that he never wanted to see to begin with. After that, Ryu's mentioned the conditioner she made is very useful. He started considering growing lemons in their territory. He continued for lemons, it seems that cultivation is very prosperous in the neighboring territory, so if they want immediate results then they'll need a large amount. Hearing his words, she thought regarding the whole fiasco with her body he didn't say anything. But then she mentioned to herself, is he using Richard to blackmailing her again? Then he asked, there's a field that's rather suitable for growing lemons, so would she like to go see it together sometime around next week? And she responded even though she wants to go but there's a tea party next week. Looking at her wardrobe and looking at her clothes, she thought now that she thinks about it as Britney's fashion sense was really bad. In the next scene, Britney is looking at the clothes and questioned, what is this? Could it be that it's a Christmas tree? As there's bright red bows and golden lace edge on a green outfit. After that she fall on her knee while thinking, ready-made dresses can't be found on the market for this body type. She can only make herself a new one in the upcoming days, and she's really glad that she took up sewing. A few days later, while looking at the dress she thought, this is acceptable. Suddenly someone voiced, Miss, and asked, what could it be that she is doing? Looking at them she contemplated the maids who prepare her outfits and responded, she's talking herself a new dress, and the ribbon has to go and she's changing the lace edge to a simpler style. Then one maid asserted, actually she doesn't have to do such a bothersome task at all, and questioned, wouldn't it be fine to just put on that outfit as that suits her very well? Getting surprised by her word, Britney questioned, is she serious about what she says? And that maid accepted that outfit is very pretty, but looking at their giggling she quoted, this is really annoying as she can't get angry. Afterwards she noted she's not really confident about her looks, but she still think it's be best to ask Ryu's Oni-sama, so she'll let Oni-sama choose. Then Britney thought for having only mentioned a name they're trembling way too much, and she stated, that's enough, so when it comes to wearing things she still let people, as this probably counts throwing her weight around, but after all she's just a small fatty who's borrowed Ryu's prestige. While opening the door she quoted, joke around, but instantly she gets shocked by Ryu's and he noted, he also think that outfit isn't very good, so he requested her to excuse him. Then questioned, has he interrupted her discussion? He continued, Britney, one of her guests is here, so he came over to call her. Moreover, looking at maids Ryu's quoted, the two of them don't seem to have much of a sense for fashion, and it would be better to hire new employees to be in charge of preparing Britney's outfits. Then he thanked them for all their work up and he hold her hand while mentioned, Britney, let's go. Furthermore, she voiced, Ryu's Oni-sama, and he responded, honestly, he couldn't stand those maids' words and deeds, as they even went so far to steal the accessories grandmother passed down, so he originally planned to fire them. After hearing Britney quoted, how surprising, but then she questioned, is it really alright to dismiss so many people all at once? And he spoke, the interviews for new employees has already been finished. Then she asserted, he really works fast. However, she thought, it appears as if Ryu's doesn't intend to scold her for using his name. Even if that is so, but he's sometimes really scary and sometimes really warm, enthusiastic towards work and running about of the sake of the territory. She really doesn't understand what that person considered his top priority. In the next scene, looking at Britney, Ryu's thought, lately, it seems like Britney's been possessed by something. Further, he elaborated that she was born when he was 5 years old, her black hair and water blue eyes, a child who was just like an angel. But when she was 3 years old, both her parents left the family in succession. From then on, she started to become obsessed with food. And when he saw Britney again after a long absence, what he saw in front of him was nothing more than a fat little pig. That angelic face no longer existed. And after he turned 13, he started studying at the Royal Academy. At the royal capital, he got on really good terms with the prince. Even though he has such a noble air about him, he's unexpectedly easy to converse with. Ryu's also mentioned that he managed to get along quite well with his friends. Studying together also deepened their bonds, so he wanted to stay at the royal capital for a while again. But he graduated after 3 years of studies, and after this, he had to guard the Hakusu land's responsibility, a very heavy responsibility. Further, he articulated that Britney became heavier and heavier during that time. And in the 3 years that he was away, the Hakusu Earl had become poorer and poorer. The business his parents ran failed, and relatives even cheated them out of their money. His parents only wanted to live a life of luxury and weren't suited for business. And the person who wasted the most money was Britney. However, Ryu's exclaimed he can't take it anymore, as he got to marry her out of the family as soon as possible. But as long as this cousin of mine stays here, he won't be able to inherit the Hakusu Earl title. He continued, when she was 11, a proposal engagement was set up between her and Richard. He made a perfect blind date introduction boom and continuously advanced this plan, as clearly just this step alone should have made the plan a success. But he was met with news that the engagement had been broken off. After that, Ryu sadly contemplated Britney. Does she intend to keep on ruining all his plans? So he fell into a deep depression. However, he continued that the feeling Britney gave off to others became rather unusual. But later he saw Britney exercising, and even worse, he thought that she'd happily go to the royal capital. She's definitely been possessed by something. On the other hand, thanks to Britney, soap is being sold at a high price, and the arrears are also nearly cleared. If it's this version of Britney, perhaps. But if she reverts back to her formerly wasteful self, then he'll kick her out as fast he can. But he articulated right now, that's not the case, as sometimes because she's too hungry, then she'll search for food in the kitchen in the middle of the night, so he turns a blind eye to this. In the next scene, Richard quoted, they've paid a large amount of compensation to the Hakusu territory and also provided lots of help, and that hot spring of hers, olive oil and lemons, also not to mention rose essential oil. So, he continued, he believed that asking for further help beyond this would be excessive, and questioned, doesn't she agree? Then she nervously stated, what he is saying is, this is all help they'll receive from his end. Then she thought, even if it's like that, as his neighbor there's still a lot more help he'd like to get. Cutting off her thought, Richard quoted, let's leave it at that. And Britney requested him for just a moment. Unexpectedly, he questioned, let's exchange equally, how about that? Then she responded while giving the soap, for example, her invention that'll eliminate the era of bow, so they can barter using that soap of theirs. Then she questioned, what does he think? And he responded, right now, the item that's super popular in the royal capital, but she gets confused. Suddenly, Richard comes closer to her while asserting, by the way, currently, she doesn't smell bad at all, and it's because she's washed her body well at the hot spring. But instantly he denied and quoted, it's not just the lack of smell as there's also a pleasant flowery scent. So he continued, let's not talk about that, and asked her, has she lost her weight as her face seems to have slimmed down a bit compared to the last time she saw her? And she responded, she plans to lose weight gradually while watching what she eats and also exercising. Afterward, he quoted, he's going to look for Ryu's while looking at him. Britney thought, what exactly just happened? Later, Ryu's greeted him, then Richard articulated that while riding horses and going out for a walk, he heard from Ryu's about Britney's situation of being constantly bullied by her maids. Further, he thought that what he'd seen was her trying her best to revolt in her own way, as he certainly didn't even understand the situation, as he'd done something extremely selfish, and he'd done something unforgivable to that girl. Eventually, his father quoted, those two from the Hakusu family will also attend some sort of party at the royal capital. After hearing her father, he contemplated next time they see each other he'll be at the royal capital, and he must first formally apologize to her. In the royal capital, girls were thanking Britney for inviting them, but she refused and thanked them for coming. Further, she articulated, the day of the tea party has arrived, and the invited guests are young noblewomen who live nearby. Also remarking that dress went well, and with a moss green dress, this white pig can look a little slimmer. Then one of them mentioned Lady Britney. Nice to meet her, as she's Lolita-style, Richard's cousin. She continued that she've been looking forward to meeting her as Richard told her so much about her. Looking at her, Britney thought Richard's cousin, Lolita-style, and the daughter of the Earl to the east. Her name is Nora, as she appears in the manga. Meanwhile, Nora also thanked her for inviting her. Furthermore, it mentioned that along with Britney, she becomes one of Angela's followers and makes fun of the protagonist, Meryl. And it seems like the two of them, Britney and Nora, get treated as a set, but unlike Britney, she doesn't die partway through. However, Britney mentioned if possible she doesn't want to be involved with her, and if things go as they do in the manga then her personality is bad, just like past Britney's, so she should most likely avoid any kind of behavior that could link her to Angela. Moreover, she articulated that was the start of the tea party. Then one of them voiced, Lady Britney, she's rounded out in the time since she last saw her, and another noblewoman noted she's jealous that she seems so healthy. After hearing, then she wanted to scream that she's thinner than she was before. Suddenly, she noticed Nora and contemplated she's not jumping on the bandwagon, as Britney's getting a different impression of her than she did from the manga. Cutting off her thought, Lily voiced, Lady Britney. Her brother gave her a gift when he visited the other day, and she responded, Richard was most kind to her. But her mind was on Nora while thinking that she got left all by herself, as Britney doesn't want to get too involved with her. But as the host of the party, she approached Nora and thanked her for coming, but she hesitantly agreed. After that, Nora went silent, and it made Britney shocked while she thought she doesn't seem the least bit domineering to her. Then a noblewoman mocked good old Nora as her outfit is more plain than usual. Another girl quoted showing her ankle, then told Nora to quit the novelty fashion. Hearing their bickering, Britney thought what a terrible tea party. After the party, she thanked all for coming, and Lily voiced, Lady Britney, and thanked her for having her, as she hopes she can come to a tea party at her house in the future. While looking at her, Britney thought, Lily's so cute. Then she mentioned have some soap. Later, she contemplated only Nora was left. Some rocks had fallen on the road home and blocked the way, so she was staying the night with her. Nora quoted pardon the intrusion, then Britney assured her that she doesn't mind and she's happy to have a young lady of her own age to talk to. However, Nora nervously noted she's really worthless and she's bad at spending time with other young women, as they're all so small and cute and aren't covered in freckles like her. After hearing her, Britney contemplated Lady Nora doesn't have any self-confidence, and even though she's so stylish and put together, she can't help but empathize with her, and she knows it's dangerous to get close to her, but she wants to be her friend. Further, Britney requested Nora to just call her Britney. Looking at her confused face, she quoted she doesn't mind, so let's be friends. Hearing her, Nora gets shocked and requested Britney to just call her Nora, and there's no need for them to be formal. After that, Britney questioned her does she want to get in the hot spring, but Nora responded she'd rather other people didn't see her body. Hearing her, Britney thought why would such a nice girl end up becoming so mean, as it doesn't make sense to her. After thinking, she noted she thinks she's better off as compared to her flabby body. Eventually, Britney articulated the Villainess two lackeys, Nora and her, ended up becoming friends, just as in the original, as they took one step closer to destruction, but she questioned herself in confusion that it's okay, right? Later, Ruse mentioned it seems like the lemons are growing nicely, then he questioned Britney what about her engagement. Hearing him, she choked on her coffee, but again he asked she's almost 13, so isn't it about time for her to attend some parties? Further, Ruse continued, he would have been worried, but it seems like she's changed, and it might be about time for her to look for a fiancé for real. But he hasn't made his societal debut yet, so if she waits for that and won't make it before she turns 15. After that, he mentioned he'll come too, so he wants her to think seriously about the future. While smiling, she thought his face says one thing but his words mean another. Later, while walking, Britney contemplated. She feels like she's only recently started to understand him, and if she's going to parties, then she'll probably need makeup and face powder, perhaps cornflour, and mud. But looking at the stranger, she thought a stranger, who could it be? Then looking at his hair, she noted not orange, like Richard's. Suddenly, he turned his head toward her, and looking at her, Britney thought he was in the manga. However, he apologized for barging in and asked if she's Ryu's cousin. Looking at him, she thought Crown Prince Marlowe and the older brother of protagonist Meryl, and Villainess Angela, but what is he doing here? After thinking, she nervously agreed and introduced that her name is Britney, and it's an honor to be in his presence. Marlowe asked in surprise if she knows who he is, and she agreed while mentioning His Highness, the Crown Prince. Then he responded while gazing at her that he's bad for scaring her, but he's been wanting to meet her as he heard that she was the one who invented soap. He continued that he asked Ryu's and was able to put in a big order, and while giving her a gift, he mentioned this is for her. Meanwhile, Britney contemplated so close to her, and even though it was just the work of an amateur who tried it out once for fun, suddenly Ryu's voiced Prince Marlowe, and he responded, so this is where he've been? He was looking for him. Further, he continued he was talking to his cousin, although she's a little different to the Earl's daughter he've heard about as girls grow up so fast these days. Hearing him, she contemplated, did he just try to cover something up as what has he been telling the prince about her? Then Ryu's requested him to come that way, but Marlowe stared at something, and Britney asked him would he like to see the lab. Further, he voiced Britney, what a kind young lady she is, and she mentioned there's nothing in here she needs to hide, so she thought Prince Marlowe seems like someone who has a childlike curiosity. However, he questioned Britney why did she turn down her little sister as she doesn't want to come to the royal capital, so he thinks she'd have a much greater chance of expanding her capabilities there. Instantly, she pondered another flag to get involved with Angela. Then she asserted nervously she's still getting a feel for it, so she thinks she'd make a big mess in a place like that. And he exclaimed Ryu's told him that Britney's too much of an idiot, and it'd be discourteous to have her by the princess' side. After hearing him, she looked at Ryu's and thought did he really tell him that word for word? But Marlowe continued to him it doesn't seem like it'd be a problem for Britney to meet her, and she thought why does he want her to go to the royal capital so badly? Eventually, to break the silence, Ryu's coughed and mentioned Britney is tied up with her soap making here, so she can't go to the royal capital. Then Marlowe responded they'll make it a short trip as there's going to be a party in the royal capital soon. So, Ryu's, he'll be there, and he can bring Britney along. Looking at his face, Britney contemplated Ryu's as giving it some thought, and there had been some talk about a party before. Marlowe continued while Ryu's at it he thinks it would be a good opportunity for the Hakusu's new product. Then Ryu's responded he've sweetened the deal. Meanwhile, Britney pondering that how come he changed his mind so fast, and Marlowe asserted they all know Ryu's is a cheapskate. Then she contemplated now that she thinks about it, he's positively leaking with miserliness, which means she has no choice, so she'll attend the party in the royal capital for his benefit. Later, Britney articulated, now that's decided, it's time to diet. Further, she went to Ryu's and quoted about the party, she has to ask something and looking at him, she thought, he's so beautiful. She heard that Prince Marlowe said, in the royal capital, he is called the raven-haired young nobleman. But then he asked, what is it? And she quoted that she meant, she'd like a new dress. Looking at his smile, she thought, his eyes aren't smiling. Then she tried to convince him, afraid that it doesn't have to be an expensive one, as it's just none of the ones she own are appropriate. After hearing her, he agreed that he knows, plus she's gotten thinner lately, so they're all too big. So, he'll buy it for her as they're going to the royal capital, and she thanked him happily, but instantly thought, did he just test her? Then he asked, what kind of dress would you like? And she responded, black or dark blue is slimming, so something that would be good. Further, Ryu stated, don't worry too much, as their tax revenue this year has increased, and she's got her business, so it seems like they'll be able to finish paying off their debt, and then they can build a waterway. After hearing his words, Britney thought she was wrong. Her brother is amazing, and he's producing wine and raising horses to steadily increase their income. After thinking, she exclaimed, she's in awe of Big Brother as he's the only one of their relatives who's thinking seriously about the Hakusu estate. Further, she continued, aunt and uncle are apathetic when it comes to work, and she immediately apologized to him. But he responded, she's right, as he was the same before he went to the royal capital, and he was childish, spoilt, and loved luxury. Ryu's continued, that's why he should become Earl. He doesn't want his parents to be involved in managing things, and he wants his grandfather to step away from the role completely. After hearing him, she gets surprised and contemplated. Ryu's is trying to take on all the responsibilities of the estate by himself. Cutting off her thought, he questioned, Britney, will she be on his side? However, she contemplated, this is where the path forks, and this question is what will decide whether he casts him away or not. Then responded, she has no intention of opposing him. While showing him her arm, she exclaimed, look, she's even gaining some muscle so she can help carry a bit of his baggage. Further, she asked him, how about it? What does he think of her answer? And again she's about to ask, but Ryu started laughing creepily, and she asked, Big Brother, did she do something wrong? Then she mentioned Ryu's is always kind, graceful, and gives her a loving smile, even when she's arrogant, even if that's not how he truly feels. Suddenly, Britney started heading backward, but he captured her and asked, "What's wrong?" As she sees his face and wants to run. How horrible, and nervously she responded, "It was just a big misunderstanding." But then he embraced her, and she thought, what kind of posture is this? As she can't get away. Further, he mentioned, "It's strange, Britney," as when he's with her, his true feelings try to slip out. And she responded, she's fine with him keeping them good and hidden. Then he laughed. Then Britney thought, are these his true feelings, or is he allowing himself to trust her a little? Meanwhile, turning around, she asserted, until she can find a fiancé and get married and move away, she'll do her best to help with the estate, so he can count on her. Then Britney requested him to take back what he said in regards to the royal capital, and he accepted it, while mentioning, if she doubles the estate's revenue for him. Then she asked, what kind of Georgian is that? And she requested him, don't put so much pressure on a little fatty like her. However, he holds her shoulder while smiling. He asserted, she really does have a nice personality, and it's quite something to have deceived him all these years. Then she responded in panic, big brother, she's nowhere close to his acting abilities, as he feigned friendliness for more than 10 years. Later, Britney articulated that the dress from Ryu's arrived, as it had been ordered beforehand. He was just trying to test her. But looking at the box, she internally thanked Ryu's, and her weight reached 65 kilograms. In the next scene, looking at the scene, Britney gets amazed and mentioned they're finally in the royal capital. She articulated, thanks to Crown Prince Marlowe's presumptuous invitation. They were all in attendance for the beginning of the party, and from the Hakusu territory, she and Ryu's, from the eastern domain Nora, and from the Asudaru territory Richard and Lily. Further, Britney questioned, where did she get her dress for the party, Nora, but she didn't answer. And again, she voiced Nora, then she apologized to her, but she doesn't recommend going after Ryu's as he only looks sweet. Then Nora blushed. However, she almost forgets to mention that the results of dieting every day have led to her amazingly dropping down to 60 kilos as Shiva managed to get to husky level. Then she noted Shiva got that in the bag now, and even she will be able to secure some candidates to be his fiancé at this rate. Cutting off her thought, Ryu's quoted there here. Suddenly, Lily voiced, Lord Ryu's, Lady Britney. And he responded, Lily, glad she could make it. Then she thanked him that she'd love to go home in the same carriage as him. Meanwhile, Britney thought, still, everyone's being fooled by that refreshing smile of his. Suddenly Marlowe voiced, Ryu's, Britney, thanks for coming from so far away, as they have his deepest gratitude. Looking at the noble women blushing, Britney thought, are they fine with just any hot guy? Later, while passing the gift to Marlowe, Britney quoted, here's their new product, and he thanked Britney as he wanted one of those. Then she responded if she like it she can send him more. Getting surprised, he requested her that he'd like to make another order for more soap and shampoo. Then, eventually, Ryu's thanked Marlowe that their products will gain even more prestige if His Highness uses them, and he responded he can also add some indicators that he's a purveyor to the royal family if you like. Suddenly, maids were coming. While looking at them, Britney gets confused and thought, what's up with that? Then Marlowe asserted those are the maids that serve his little sister, and he doesn't know why, but they always look like that. Looking at them, Britney contemplated, did she make them dress like stagehands so they wouldn't attract more attention than her? But they attract attention in a worse way now, and she doesn't want to get herself involved with Angela. Moreover, looking outside the window, Britney asked one of the maids that could she go out into the garden, and she requested by all means. As Britney went outside, she gets surprised and thought a greenhouse. While looking at the herbs, she articulated, are these common mallows and marigolds? Is someone growing them? But suddenly someone questioned what's got her so captivated over there. Looking at him, she voiced, Lord Richard. Then asked him he also came to see the garden, and he admits while exclaiming that Britney looks like she's doing well, as her precious soap really helped him out the other day, so he gave her his thanks. But immediately she refused that they should help each other in times of need. Listening to her, Richard gets speechless. A few seconds later, he exclaimed by the way he heard from Ryu's that Britney's servants were always bullying her. After hearing him, she gets shocked. Then he quoted never mind and apologized for bringing it up, and he gets that she's doing her best to stand up for herself, so that's all he wanted to tell her. Then he apologized to her. Hearing him, she contemplated what's up with him. Just what did brother Ryu's put into his head, as his demeanor has become so gentle, so she guess it's fine. Then Richard noted he has to say that it looks like she's lost some weight, and Britney agreed that it's due to the efforts of keeping up with her diet. After that, he questioned, isn't it about time to stop with all the formal talk, as being polite is fine, but she can just call him Richard? Then she responded she supposed he can address her as Britney. Then she shouted nervously Richard her best regards, and he quoted his best regards to her, Britney. Further, she articulated a bit of this and that Richard and her became a little closer, as she's pretty sure that the first time they met she thought Richard was such a bossy young master type. Later at the hall, Britney thought as extravagant as she'd expected, but this is a little as many were staring at Britney. Meanwhile, she thought the gaze of someone sizing up the opposite sex is amazing, and brother Ryu's. She gets surprised that he's so popular, even Nora and Lily are being assertive. But unexpectedly someone pushed her and she fell on the ground while that boy mentioned she's in the way, fatty. So he can't believe she'd show up to a party like this with that body of her, and she angrily stated aren't he's the one that crashed into her. Then he responded she's causing a scene. Suddenly, Richard came in front of her and questioned, what happened? And that boy mentioned he's the son of Duka Sudaru. He continued, the girth of that white piggy was blocking the way, and being a nuisance. She articulated, what did he just say? Then Richard asked, who's the nuisance? As this girl was personally invited by His Highness, the Crown Prince. Then he questioned that man, is he questioning His Highness' judgment? That man left while gritting his teeth. Then Britney thanked Richard, and he questioned, what were you doing there? Just keeping her mouth shut. Then she mentioned he fired back at him before she got the chance, but still, she thanks him for sticking up for her. While turning his face, Richard refused her. Then Britney articulated, even though he said that he hated her, but still he saved her. Furthermore, everyone is murmuring while looking at the prince, but then Britney gets shocked as Angela entered. Britney articulated, this is her first time seeing her in the flesh, but compared to His Highness, her looks are fairly plain, as she feels bad comparing them. But unexpectedly, Ryu's voiced, Britney, it's time to dance, and asked her, shall we dance? And there she feels holes being burned into the back of her head. Then she responded, she's not all that confident in her skills, and Ryu's quoted, after all, she did hospitalize her dance instructor with a bone fracture, so if she's going to step on him, then step on him. Then he took her hand. While dancing, Ryu's expressed to Britney that dress looks great on her, and she thanked him as it's all because of his fashion sense. Brother. Then he exclaimed, next time he wants to give her an even slimmer dress as a present. After hearing him, she thought maybe she should step on him. While glancing at others, Britney articulated, despite being Ryu's cousin, this is the first time she's had so many eyes on her. Even Angela being so beautiful and has the flowery crown prince near her, and they're likely to be compared so. Adding in Meryl on the top of all that, she can see how her personality would get so warped. Suddenly, she questioned herself why she's empathizing with Angela, then told herself that it's bad, but suddenly Marlowe voiced, Ryu's, Britney, and looking at them talking, she contemplated they really do get along famously, and she gets to see a side of Ryu's as she doesn't often see. Further, she articulated, boy do they stand out, as she doesn't think they could stand out more if they tried, but suddenly someone voiced, pleased to meet her, so she is the Britney Shiva heard about. While turning her head she noted princess. Then Angela asserted, she wondered if she is closely acquainted with her brother. However, nervously Britney refused that Shiva only just met him recently. Then Angela responded, it's unusual for her brother to be acquainted with a girl of her particular countenance, so, she continued, if it would please her then she would like for them to also get along. Hearing her, Britney instantly noted in her mind not a chance, but outside she agreed with her. Then Angela mentioned she would like to invite her to her room after this if it's alright with her, as she has something she would like to discuss, and Britney accepted, but she contemplated that she feels like she's one step closer to her execution. Unexpectedly, Nora questioned, Britney, is she okay? And she thanked her. Further, Britney articulated that she's so grateful that Nora decided to accompany her after she worried her but with these members. Later, Angela requested her to have a seat, then she voiced Britney she's been meaning to ask. Despite her outward appearance, she is quite well versed in cosmetics. After hearing Nora mentioned it's so true as Britney has invented so many different kinds of beauty products, then Britney told her to stop as she can't afford for her to get any more interested in her than she already is, so she needs her to think of her as useless as soon as possible. Then Angela voiced, Britney, what do you think after seeing her? Hearing her question, Britney thought she can't just go along with her, but what do she do as if she suck up to her then she'll be on her way to the groupie route. After thinking, Britney quoted, she's going to speak candidly. Then she shouted, Princess, the garment Her Highness wore doesn't suit her, and Angela gets shocked. Now there was awkward silence between them. A few moments later Angela questioned, in what way exactly is this dress lacking? She continued, that it's the same dark pink that's fashionable in the capital, and it has so many frills as all the nobles she met today, and even the maids gave her nothing but praise. Listening to her, Britney queried, Princess, would she prefer if she lied to her so she could continue to delude herself? And she's sure that's not what she really want, right? Then Angela noted, what is she trying to say? And Britney asked, "She want to look beautiful, don't she?" So, she mentioned that to receive not fake compliments but to have everyone praise her from the bottom of their hearts, or she is fine with the way things are. Then Britney asserted that she has said her piece as she has discouraged her, so she shall take her. But not letting Britney to complete her words, Angela voiced, "Wait a moment," as she still has not explained to her why this dress is inadequate. Hearing her, Britney thought she need to just quickly say something so she can get out of there. Then she asserted, between Princess and Nora, who's here as well, they both failed in making good dress selection. She continued, wanting to wear light and frilly dresses that she find to be cute, so she understand those feelings all too well. However, Britney mentioned she hate to have to tell her, but those kinds of dresses doesn't suit people like them, so they will choose what clothes she wears. Then both Angela and Nora asked hesitantly, what does she say, as she doesn't has to be that blunt. Further, Britney breathes and then shouted, "First up, Princess, that dress doesn't match her neat and tidy elegance, as light color look much better on her than dark colors." Then Britney voiced, "Nora, that fickle pink color doesn't match her dignified aura, so with a more chic dress she'll not only captivate men but women too." She continued, as for herself, it's not even comparable with this body and hair color, as pink doesn't suit her at all. Then Britney articulated, after all, they are three villainesses, a far cry from what girls would admire, but the only one with a dress that suits them is a sweet girl like the protagonist, Meryl. After that, Angela voiced, Britney, if she were her wardrobe stylist, and asked her what color dress would she have her wear. Then Britney thought, despite being a noble villainess, pastel color would look great on her. After thinking, she quoted that something in a light lavender, the same color as her eyes. Also, she would choose a light color for her lipstick, and as for her hair, she'd arrange it in looser style. Meanwhile, Britney contemplated with this, Angela shout hate her, and any chance of becoming her groupie should be gone. Then she voiced, Nora, and apologized her for saying bad things about her dress. Then she responded she already knew herself it didn't suit her, so she guesses the things she like aren't always what will look good on her, and Britney still apologized to her. Then Nora asked her favor, will she help her pick out a dress for next time, and Britney agreed that if she's fine with her helping. Unexpectedly, Nora questioned, could she tell her the types of girls Lord Ryuz likes, and Britney responded she thinks she should just give up on that guy. Further hearing her, Nora asked she jealous, so with Lord Ryuz. Britney also, and instantly she refused she getting married to the likes of him, it's only because she doesn't know the real Ryuz that can say that, as in reality he is terribly but afraidly. Nora voiced, Britney, while looking at Ryuz. While turning around she asked Nora what's wrong, and he responded even he'll be hurt if she criticizes him so bluntly, don't she think, Britney? Looking at him she gets pale. However, he mentioned that Prince Marlowe was looking for her, and Britney hesitantly responded understood and bid Nora. As she reached Marlowe, noted Britney, he've been waiting for her, as he heard Angela got a hold of her first, and she agreed while laughing. Then he asked how about he show her his collection. Further, he continued the herbs in the Western garden, so he wondered if she'd be able to use some in her product. Hearing Marlowe, she excitedly agreed and contemplated that the crown prince was the one caring for that garden. Suddenly he asked does she find it odd, and immediately she denied. Then Marlowe mentioned he has an interest in both soaps and cosmetics, as he like knitting more than training with a sword, and he like herbs and aesthetics more than hunting, so it won't be taken very well by those around him if a boy admits to such. Listening to Marlowe, Britney asserted she doesn't see anything wrong with it at all, as pursuit of aesthetics has nothing to do with gender. Then he responded happily that he's so happy she thinks so, as he can only confess this to those very close to him, and she exclaimed that she herself not very good at knitting or embroidery, and she's hopeless at poetry and music. However, he stated that poetry gets better with practice, and in this country, poetry often accompanies love letters. Looking at her surprised face, Marlowe asked, she want to see what's written here. Then she hesitantly agreed as something along these lines. While reading, she expressed, that is great, and the way he framed the words is quite creative and novel. Furthermore, smiling at each other, she guesses, this guy is a little peculiar, isn't he? And despite him being the protagonist's older brother figure from the shoujo manga, he can't be judged based solely on appearance. While looking at the flowers, Britney asked, what's this? And he questioned, she also study medical herbs. And she admits. Then he quoted, since there are many after his life within the walls of this royal palace, but thanks to his research, no type of poison works on him. Then she contemplated that he mentions it, that the cause of his death in the shoujo manga was being stabbed by an assassin and not by poisoning. But she asserted he needs to take a lot more precautions than that if he's to protect himself to the fullest. While laughing, he mentioned, Britney, she's so kind. so from now on, he'll make preventing it before it happens his main concern. Meanwhile, she thought that she doesn't know how serious he is, but suddenly he voiced, Britney, closely, that he'd like her to freely call him Marlo from now on, as now they're comrades. Then she quoted, "It would be an honor, Prince Marlo." But then she thought she'd much prefer if less danger comes his way, especially since they've only just become acquainted with each other. Later, Ruse mentioned His Highness Britney and asked is now a good time. And Marlo responded that he've had his fill of fun for a while. Then Ruse responded, he's glad to hear it. While showing a page, Marlo mentioned, look at this, as Britney gave him a poem she wrote. Just listen to how amazingly she crafted it, and immediately she voiced, Prince Marlo, wait a minute. But it's too late, he started reading, that should he consume confections, he'll get stout. They are but human, so why is it, he wonders, when he run too much his heart won't stop throbbing. After listening, both Richard and Ruse get speechless, and a few moments later, he mentioned, truly, it is a masterpiece. Then Britney articulated, thus, their stay in the capital came to an end. And the first time she was called to the capital, she got along with Prince Marlo and made Princess Angela mad. She continued that the Prince Marlo wanted her to come back by the castle again, but she was too afraid of Angela as she just wants to be in a safe place within her own territory, to diet and get married. Later on the carriage ride, Ruse apologized to Britney that despite that rare chance, it looks like this one is already over capacity. Hearing his words, she thought if she were to translate, since his butt is so big, then she won't ride together with her. Further, Britney voiced, Richard, here's to a safe ride. But looking at him laughing, she mentioned, could he stop laughing so hard while looking at a certain someone's face? Then Richard asserted, he's glad that she were able to learn something from this outing, and next year he'll be staying at the capital to attend the same school as Ruse. And Britney responded, she'll be a little lonely. Then he asked, by a little lonely, she means she'll be in trouble without someone to bum favor off of, don't she? After that, she responded, why would he think such a thing? Then she articulated, her first impression of him was the worst, but he's happy now that they get along a little better, and that was the return trip home. Several months after returning from the castle in the royal capital, spring, Britney turned 13. Suddenly, Ruse mentioned her riding instructor is here. Then Britney thanked him for letting her know, brother Ruse. However, Britney articulated that she've been interested in horseback riding for a while, and just recently actually took it up. And though only for rides around the park so far, she continued that her weight has held at 60 kilos. The only event to occur in the earldom while Ruse and her were away visiting the capital, their debt increased. Also, his parents asked grandfather for some money and he gave it to them. By the time they returned from the capital, the swindled money was already gone, just when they were this close to paying off all their debts. Further, she mentioned that Ruse was so annoyed that he even showed his true character in front of her. But there's nothing she can do about it, Britney continued. Their soap has been selling well as of late, so all she can do is hope for the best. As soon as she reached her home, she asked maids what's going on, and one of them responded that Lord Ryu's parents are here. Hearing her, Britney thought she got a bad feeling about this. Ruse asserted that's why he's telling them he wants to sever all ties with them after this. Then his parents got angry and questioned just what does he think he's doing. He think they'd allow that. Meanwhile, peeking through the door, Britney thought Ruse doesn't look like his father at all. And inside, he stated the earldom is in dire straits due to their extravagant spending. And as their son, he can only feel ashamed of them. Suddenly, Ryu's mother shouted, Father, it's still not too late. So just make her husband the next in line for the earldom, as Ruse is too young and this is absurd. Grandfather is going to respond, but his eyes met Britney's. Then he called and asked her, finally back from her ride is she? After that, Britney responded to him in shock, don't call out to her, grandfather. Looking at her, Ryu's father mentioned that everything will be fine if Britney just leaves the household. And his mother asserted that she eats up so much money that if she weren't here, their expense would be. Ryu's instantly debated that Britney is a contributor to this earldom. And the current increase in the earldom's revenue is all thanks to the great efforts Britney has been making. And they cannot simply throw out a girl who has garnered the attention of the crown prince without any reason. So, grandfather mentioned that no matter what anyone says, his adorable little Britney will not going anywhere. And not only that, he assigned Ruse to deal with them. Then his parents responded, what is he saying? As he has only just turned 18, and asked him, Ruse, their family, aren't they? Looking at them, Britney thought, these people, they've been a huge headache for Ruse all the way back to his childhood, haven't they? And no doubt, this is the reason his personality ended up the way it did, with these parents, an unreliable grandfather, and a stupid white pig. Further clenching her fist, she contemplated Ryu's has tried to restore the Hakusu estate all by himself and fought in solitude. But then his father quoted, "He ungrateful swine." Suddenly, Britney shouted, "Don't blame brother Ryu's as the ungrateful swines, here is them." Furthermore, she continued that grandfather had faith that brother could handle the debts, and he is the one who brought the earldom this far. Then she asked them, does they really not think anything of the fact that they cause nothing but trouble for their son? Now everyone gets silent. After that, Ryu's mentioned he's so disappointed and requested his parents to never come back to this mansion again. After they left, Britney thought, now it's just the two of them and the atmosphere is a bit precarious. She should probably just return to her lab. Then suddenly, Ryu's voiced, Britney, that he never thought she would support him. And she responded she just suddenly got mad and the words came flying out. But he denied and thanked her that this whole matter got resolved as he've been meaning to ask. Then he asked, who is she really? And she questioned what does he mean? Then he responded they've always lived together and been near each other. However, he can't shake the feeling that something's not right. He continued that sometimes he gets the feeling she's possessed by something. Then she responded, don't he think it's just because Shiva lost a little weight? And after all, a girl going through puberty matures quickly. And Ryu's asked just where did she obtain all this knowledge, as he's never seen any books in their library concerning hot springs and soap. However, pulling her face, he questioned, Britney, can't she tell him the truth? But looking at him, she contemplated that she wished he wouldn't throw around his unneeded sex appeal. And to his younger cousin, so maybe she should just tell him the truth as it'll just sound like she's lying. After thinking, she questioned him, does he believe in things like past lives? Hey guys, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We love reading your comments, so please leave your thoughts and suggestion below. And wish you a happy new year to all of you.